everybody, welcome back. I'm Urvashi, and today in this video I'm going to be talking about the 5th house of your birth chart. And I'm going to be talking about this house in a very different context also. We have a lot of videos on YouTube for the houses in a birth chart, so I wanted to do something different here. I wanted to give you something extra that will really help you in your practical daily life. So I am going to here connect the houses, what I've already done in the previous 4 videos. I've done videos for the first 4 houses. I've talked about houses of your birth chart and how they map into your home, the different areas, the different corners, the different directions of your home. And that's the way it is. That's the way the ancients have written in the classics, you see. The way we have astrology written in the classics, similarly we have the science of Vastu, shastra written in the classics, and this is the science or the knowledge about construction, how the house or the home should be constructed, which should be the areas of maximum light, which should be the area where you should have the maximum windows, where should you have an entrance, where should you have a toilet, how can you best harness the energies of nature into your home. So how does Vastu map into your birth chart, or how does your birth chart map into your home is what I'm going to be talking about, and this is also with respect to Lal Kitab. So I'm talking about houses but in a completely different context. And that's just because I want to give you something more, something different, something extra, which will help you. So the 5th house. So what is the 5th house? In Lal Kitab, like I've mentioned in my previous videos, we always see the natural zodiac. The first house will always be Aries, and so the 5th house is always going to be the sign of Leo. So the sign of Leo, the sun is the natural ruler of Leo, so the sun becomes the first significator of the 5th house. The second significator is Jupiter. We are going to be seeing both these planets for the 5th house. The sun rises in the east, rules the eastern direction. If the 5th house of your chart is afflicted, then the eastern direction of your home will have an issue. Or if the eastern direction of your home is afflicted in some way, then you will have problems related to the 5th house of your chart. What is the 5th house of your chart? What all do we see in the 5th house? The 5th house is your children, progeny. How fortunate are you? Will you have children or not? Will there be problems in having children, or are you blessed? Are you fortunate? How fortunate are you going to be with respect to children? How much of good luck are your children going to be for you? What kind of a relationship will you have with your children? How fortunate are the children for themselves? How well are they going to do for themselves? So generally, anything and everything about children you will see from the 5th house. Whether you will have them, whether they will be fortunate, how much will they grow in life and prosper in life, and how fortunate will you be, with respect to children. How much or how good a relationship will you have with them? Everything is seen from the 5th house. Also, sun is also the natural significator of the 1st house. The 1st house is your health. So the 5th house and the 1st house are directly connected to your health. But the 5th house is directly your digestion. And your digestion has an important say in your health. If you have digestive problems, believe me, they are the root cause of many other health issues. So here, if your digestion goes wrong, then your general health can be afflicted. Your state of mind or your peace of mind will be afflicted. Your education is seen from the 5th house. Your knowledge is seen from the 5th house. Jupiter is a significator of knowledge, and sun is a significator also of knowledge. 5th house is education. Your talents are seen from the 5th house. Whether you can use your talents for making money, for gains, is seen from the 5th house. Are you that capable that you will use your knowledge and education and talents for making money? If yes, if the 5th house is very strong, if Jupiter, Sun are very well posited, then you will definitely do that. But if the 5th house is afflicted, Jupiter, Sun are afflicted, then you may not use your knowledge you may not use your education for making money. Getting unexpected gifts is seen from the 5th house. unexpected gains, lotteries are seen from the fifth house. What kind of a relationship do you have with people, and how much do people in general love you? Especially for a politician, this house becomes very important, because this house shows the kind of the way people of his constituency love him. So what is your connection with others? How do you connect with others? How many contacts do you have? How do people relate to you? Is all seen from the fifth house. So here we got to see the fifth house, planets posited there, and the condition of Sun and Jupiter. If you have Moon, Mars, Sun or Jupiter posited in the fifth house, it's a good sign, because they are friends of Sun and Jupiter. Moon and Mars are friends of Sun and Jupiter. And if Sun and Jupiter are themselves well posited. So two things: Sun, Jupiter themselves should be well posited. Moon, Mars can also be posited in the fifth house, or Sun and Jupiter can be posited in the fifth house. If enemies of the Sun are posited in the fifth house, or the enemies of Jupiter, then it's not such a good sign. Like Mercury, Venus and Rahu will not be considered very favorable in the fifth house. In fact, Mercury, Venus, Rahu in the second, in the fifth, in the ninth, in the 11th, in the 12th will spoil Jupiter, because these are not friends of Jupiter's, and these are the houses that Jupiter naturally signifies: 2nd, 5th, 9th, 11th, 12th. So if Mercury, Venus, Rahu are posited in these houses, Jupiter has become a little weak in the chart. Similarly, if malefics are posited in the fifth, again not considered good for the fifth house. And then if Sun and Jupiter both afflicted, again not good, considered good for the fifth house. If you have friends of Sun or Jupiter in the fifth, then you can do remedies related to those planets, and you can keep things related to those planets on the eastern side of your home. For example, if Moon is in the fifth house, Moon is also clothes, so you can keep clothes on the eastern side of the home, or you can keep rice there. So things related to the planet. But if you have a planet which is not a friend of Sun or Jupiter in the fifth house, then do not keep their things on the eastern side of the home. That will not help. How do you strengthen the fifth house? The eastern wall, you can use the copper plate. You get those copper plates where you have the sun engraved on a copper plate. You can put that on the east wall of your house. You can use the yantra of the sun on the eastern wall. You can offer water to the rising sun every morning. And for Jupiter, you can, Jupiter is all about knowledge. So, and the fifth house is education. So if somehow you can contribute to a school in any way, if you can do some voluntary work in a school, if you can go and teach poor children that want education and who cannot afford education, if you can maybe give some tuition classes, tutorials to children, because Jupiter is also children. Knowledge is also Jupiter, and Jupiter signifies the fifth house. So if you can do that somehow, then you are strengthening Jupiter, you're strengthening the fifth house. So this is one of the simplest, the best remedies. If do something related to a school, because school, knowledge, and children study in school, that is again Jupiter. Both are signify Jupiter. Then you strengthen your Jupiter, you strengthen your fifth house, and you ensure blessings for your own children, for your own progeny, and good fortune for your own self where your children are concerned. So that is one of the best remedies to strengthen Jupiter. So the fifth house is also your eyesight. If the sun is afflicted, sun also signifies the first house. We've already talked about the first house. So let's suppose Rahu is placed in the first house. It means the sun is already impacted by Rahu, because the first house is signified by the sun. If you place Rahu in the first house, it means the sun already is impacted by Rahu. So the fifth house naturally gets impacted negatively to an extent. Your digestion can be impacted, your eyesight can be impacted, name, fame, status can be impacted, because the sun signifies all this. So similarly, if you have the other planets I talked about for Jupiter posited in those houses, Jupiter can be impacted. So to strengthen the sun, strengthen the eastern direction of your home and offer water to the sun. And to strengthen Jupiter, I've given you the best remedy. Do that. Do something for children. Do something related to education in a school. If you have Jupiter or Sun posited in the 10th house, that is not the best position, because Jupiter debilitates in the natural sign of Cancer, which is the 10th house. And then in that case, Jupiter and Sun both would be 6th from the 5th house. So that is not the best position to have. The Karak posited in the 6th from itself is not the best position to have. And if you have Jupiter and Sun posited in the 5th house, then do not do direct remedies for them. According to Lal Kitab, if you have a planet, if you have the significator of a house posited in the house, then do not do remedies for that planet directly. You can do remedies for the friends of those planets. For instance, for Moon, Moon is people at large, and Moon is also compassion. Moon is water. You can strengthen the Moon. You can offer water to people on a hot day, or you can offer cool drinks or sharbat, like a shabil we guys usually see in North India, at least. Lots of people offering water and refreshments to passers-by, people in general. So that is offering the Moon, that is strengthening the Moon. Similarly, you can do remedies for Mars. So depending on the planet in the 5th house, you can, if it is a friend of Jupiter Sun, you can take those things, place them on the eastern side of your house. If you have a malefic or a planet that is not a friend of these planets, then do not take the things, do not put them on the eastern side of your house. Remember to strengthen Sun and Jupiter instead. I've already given you the remedies. Also, if you are having problems related to the government, again that suggests problems related to the 5th house, because the 5th house is Sun's own house. So then you can see the impact on the 5th house in the natal chart or in the Varshfal chart. This can be in the annual horoscope also, or this can be in the natal chart. So then again you can do remedies related to Sun and Jupiter. The remedies for the 5th house is always respect your teachers, respect your gurus, because Jupiter is teachers and gurus. Respect your father, because Sun is father. Always follow all rules laid down by the government. Take the blessings of your father. Let light into your house, the early morning light into your house. Just draw apart the curtains, open up all the windows, doors, let the early morning sunlight enter your house. That is very important. If Sun and Jupiter are both well posited, both good, then you will gain through luck, through good fortune, and it shows a good heart. It shows how good you are at heart also. Another remedy here is always worship and respect the deity, whoever is close to your heart. Another thing very important is the 2nd house is very closely connected to the 5th house. The 2nd house is your speech, and the 2nd house is your food. So the 5th house is knowledge, and the 5th house is digestion. So your speech is very closely connected to your knowledge, what you speak, what you say, how you hurt others, because the 5th house is your connection with people. And the 2nd house is also the temple, your guru. So your speech, how you respect your gurus, your teachers, your God, whoever you believe in, will directly impact the 5th house. The food you eat will impact your digestion. So the cleaner you keep your eating habits, and if you are into any kind of addictions, more impacted will be the 5th house, more impacted will be Sun and Jupiter. So your speech, your the deity that you worship, your temple, because the 2nd house, I've already told you, is the temple, the deity you worship, your speech, your communication, and also your food habits are directly connected to the 5th house of good fortune, of your relation with your gurus, your teachers. The blessings you get through the temple is here in the 5th house. The temple is in the 2nd, the blessings are in the 5th house. The food you eat is in the 2nd, the digestion is in the 5th house. So the good fortune is in the 5th house. So this is all interconnected. Remember to keep the eastern side of your home, the wall lower than the western side. And if the wall is higher, if there is some kind of clutter, garbage near the eastern wall, just inside the compound, on the eastern wall, then eyesight can be affected, Digestion can be affected, especially for the male members of that home. Name, fame, and status can be affected negatively. So that is all for now for this video. I will now be seeing you in the next video. Bye for now.